7:02, we call to order. Bruce and Bruce are not here this evening for various reasons. So I do not see any public unless they're hiding somewhere in the Zoom world. Anybody out there, Dylan?
No, not that I can see. Nope.
Good. We keep our record perfect. I think the only public comment we've ever had was Ron before he was on there.
One guy once.
We did have that one guy.
Okay.
But yeah, I was a regular.
I forget what it was.
Okay, so no public comment. New business. Goals for 2023. Dylan thought this would be a good place to start.
Yep.
So we've got our bigger list. I think the idea is try and get some manageable, achievable goals for the year. Dylan, you want to give your thoughts behind that?
Yeah, sure. I thought the Excel was great and it tracked all of our progress. The only part where I didn't think it worked out was it just got really long with a list of projects and potential things that we could all accomplish through this committee. I think that it would be more productive if we narrowed that down to maybe a top 5, maybe pick 1 or 2 big items that might take more than a year to plan through, and then maybe have some smaller items to accompany those that are more achievable in our 1 year. I mean, if you think about it, we only meet 12 times, and not even because we skip our meeting in August. That's when a lot of town committees and the council all have free time. So we only meet 11 times out of the year. I think it'd be more productive if we had a smaller list with, 1 or 2 big items and then accompanied by a few smaller items.
So if we revisit, I'm glad you brought up the meeting once a month, but is the purpose of this to kind of steer the advocacy committee, to steer the town into, advancing, the various bike initiatives, I guess my impression was that like the meeting is to kind of help steer the town, and then in between each meeting, the magic happens, and then we kind of keep it moving forward and like that. As a participant, I haven't really had too many actions to do to help move things, and on the town side, there's really not much I can do there other than soliciting quotes and stuff like that and stepping on people's toes.
Yeah, Andrews, I think that's kind of the intent. This is, as an advisory committee, it's coming up.
A big fan of crossword. How big?
I've been doing crosswords since I was in middle school. My mom got me really hooked.
Here, I got it.
That we had public finally coming to talk.
Well, I'm certainly
kind
not
of giving the
quite at that
recommendations
level,
for.
I'm pretty good, but we'll see if I'm good
Matthew,
enough to put.
Matthew, we can hear your background.
Well, on a Friday or Saturday.
So just
Better
kind
now?
of give, there you go. Thank you.
Thank you.
So yeah, it is really just advising what the top goals are for the bicycle, and I keep going back to bicycle, but Bicycle and Trails Advisory Committee. So we can focus more on with the town's time available and through the council, we can figure where best to focus.
CJ, would it be something out of line to like come up with some ideas for some policies that you guys could go for, some guidelines, rather than just kind of looking at projects, but looking at, what we feel is going to enhance transportation by bike in town or cycling use on whether it's the roads, the trails, or whatever? Would that be something that we could throw out to you guys and have all of us look at and see what you think about almost a policy document?
Yeah, that's reasonable as well. We've done that in the past. We had TP&Z had added their bike rack initiative for new buildings and renovated buildings. They're now recommending bike racks. There are things like that that we can certainly discuss. If you've seen what Simsbury's going through right now with bicycles on the sidewalks, are they allowed on the sidewalks? Aren't they? Things like that are fine to recommend for policy. Most of the policies would be going through planning and zoning, but we can certainly say, hey, here's some things we think you should focus on, and we'd like you to include this when someone comes in for either new approvals or if we're talking about sidewalks, what safe access is. And Jeff might have a better thought on where, if we're talking about something like bikes on sidewalks, and I'm not bringing that up that we change it, that I would think would be something that would be discussed with the police department, because that gets to be a big safety issue. Would that be right, Jeff?
Couldn't find my unmute button. Yes, that would definitely entail that, and obviously, powers above me would have some more say than I would, but they do tend to look to me because I've been involved with cycling for so long. But yeah, definitely would involve the police department in figuring out. Ultimately, everybody looks to us to enforce it if we make a policy, and then, so we want to have something that's doable.
Right.
Makes sense.
That's always one of the goals that people overlook. You can put in a policy, but if it's non-enforceable, there's really no point in spending your time making a policy. But Matt, to that point, I mean, we could, have a subcommittee just kind of come up with some thoughts as to, what policies we might think. And I'm sure Ron has a whole list in his back pocket right now that we won't get into today.
No,
But
just to go back to,
I just figured if it was okay with you guys, I would just throw it out there to you guys on the mailing list and see what you think. Just some ideas that I had, like,
Yeah.
Don't do stupid shit like dig holes in your roads. Stuff like that. Stuff that's a hazard to cyclists, but also why it's a hazard, and kind of getting people thinking. Because if you're not a cyclist, you don't think like a cyclist.
right. Very true.
so just to backtrack for a second, so Simsbury actually has the opposite problem. They're lobbying, the cyclists are lobbying to allow cycling on the sidewalk, and
Right.
we don't have that ordinance, so we're cool.
Well, if you ever dealt with Simsbury drivers, I can understand why.
Oh, no, it's
It's
something
like the
that-
world's most unfriendly bike community. I'm constantly getting buzzed.
Yeah,
over
and
there.
that's another whole subject, because we've been going through this all week with emails with the Trails Council and with, it's, yeah. So a little bit toxic. But anyway, I was just a little confused.
Gotcha. So any other thoughts on where we should start with setting some goals for 2023?
Yeah,
I have a thought.
go ahead, Rich.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo kind of what Andres said. I've been joining these meetings, I don't know, for I think a couple of years now, and trying to get information and from different entities, the state and different people, things like that. And I bring it to the committee, but none of it's really gone anywhere. And I don't know if I should keep doing this effort. There is a meeting Friday with this state group, Bike Advisory Committee, and I mean they're interesting to sit in on, but they go on during my work hours. But if I can escape, I sit in on them. If nothing else, to learn about other things that are going on in the state, and I come away from a lot of them thinking, there's resources out there that the town could use, but I don't know how to go about getting them. And the feedback I get from them is it's got to come from the town. The town's got to reach out and ask for it. And so I I don't know, I guess I'm just throwing out that, I don't really know if I'm bringing value to these meetings. Maybe I should be doing things differently so that I can.
I mean,
Okay.
it sounds like, having somebody from the town attend the meetings would be productive.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Rich, if you could, if it's an online meeting, if you could send me the link, I'd be happy to join.
Okay,
But
I will,
meetings with the state is, almost probably a quarter or half of what we do.
yeah,
Um,
because it seems like there's money out there right now, but it's not gonna be around for long. It's like one-time money, this federal money for, that a
yeah,
lot of it's pandemic, and it's not gonna be around forever. And
Yeah.
if you don't pounce on it, it's gonna be gone.
Yeah, I was emailing back and forth with Bruce Donald this past week, and he had some various ideas about grants and whatnot. But there's certainly a lot of money out there for bike and pedestrian and trails, all those kinds of projects. It's just whether we can devote the time to applying for the grants and take time away from doing other things.
Yeah, I
Right
understand.
now, right now we're in the final design phase of our Burlington Road project. We've got other applications going on, and plan reviews for TPZ and Inland Wetlands Commission. So the end of the year and the start of the year are pretty busy for us, and with all of our yearly reports that we have to put together too for like our stormwater permit. Those are all quite time consuming, and right now we don't have the time to devote to searching for grants for some of these pedestrian and bike projects. But
So, CJ, it sounds like one of the common themes is that the town is, we just don't have the resources to move a lot of those projects along internally, with town resources. What can we do about that?
Well, the biggest problem there, Andrews, is the staff and how big the staff is and how much is going on. Particularly with engineering, there are a ton of projects that have been coming down the pike. There are a lot of development projects coming in. So it's stressed out the system to a huge degree, I think more so than many recent years.
Sure.
In a year that we've got coming up, the possibility of adding staff to do that is probably somewhat limited. Any of you who've already gotten your revaluation sheets are probably already pissed about that. We've got inflation coming in, costs going up, so it's going to be a tough budget season. So
Yeah.
I don't foresee adding a lot of staff. If there's any way we can work out, and I know Bruce Donald's talked about this before, where those of us not working for the town can kind of help move along the process of any of these grants, that would be great. I think the first first step in all this is setting the priorities and which projects we want to focus on. And Rich, I think a lot of the things you've talked about and what you've gotten information on are longer term projects that we have to keep moving on, but they're slow going through the state because the state, since COVID, it kind of seems hard to imagine, but has slowed down incredibly from where they were pre-COVID. So that's been
Much so.
one of the biggest headaches getting things done.
yeah,
So Rich, I kind of handpicked you and I want you to stay on this board because I think you are as valuable as anyone on here because of all the multi-town traveling that you do every day. So you get to see a lot that a lot of people do not see. So I would like you to stay.
Oh, Ron,
I
you don't have to.
I definitely want to stay. I just want to
Okay.
know, maybe there's you know, outside of these meetings, things I could do differently that would help the town. I mean, you mentioned traveling through other towns. I see West Hartford. It seems like they're doing things all the time. You know, if they pave a road, they'll put bike lanes in it. I know they're doing this Trout Brook Trail. I got a feeling, I don't know anything about it. I'm gonna ask in the meeting on Friday that they might be doing something along Route 4 coming up from the Stop and Shop and up to the reservoir, because they cut a whole bunch of trees down, and it sure looks to me like they're getting ready to maybe put something along the side of Route 4 coming towards the reservoir for pedestrians and cyclists. I'm just guessing. But I just see a lot of activity. And I don't know where that town's getting the resources. But I think the more meetings I attend and the more information I try to collect and bring back, got to be helpful in some form or fashion. But as far as connectivity between, you know, at the jug handle there, the one thing that I was told from these Friday meetings was the town has got to write a letter to CROG. So maybe I could draft something and present that at this meeting. Something that would have to come from Russ Arnold is what I was told.
So
So
that, Rich, that, I think that's great, you know, especially if we're tapped out in town, make, you know, everything that we can do to make it easy on somebody in the town to just say, yes, sign a document. And then, you know, if Russ doesn't have the time to do it, you know, hopefully he's got the time to read it and sign it, or one of his staff would.
Yeah, so something like that would be, I think, doable. More so I was going with that right now we just have a lot of projects, like CJ said, coming down the pipeline that have kind of been in the works for the last probably 2 to 3 years. Our sidewalk project that we are applying for this upcoming lot SIP solicitation, which is with CROG, has almost already been designed. We have some working drawings right now that have been going for the last couple of years. They did a sidewalk study in late 2019, early 2020, I believe, before my time with the town. And we're kind of working off of that right now and trying to get that project going. But certainly we can look into other grants and we can squeeze them in, but we more or less can't go in every direction to find the grants. We would need a more narrowed down selection.
Didn't like a couple of years ago when we created the, I don't know who the role was, but wasn't there like a Farmington business development manager or something like that, you know, we created the position in the town to kind of speed up some of that, and just, I don't know exactly what I'm saying.
We
but
have economic development, and we had Rose Ponte come in. She's the director of economic development.
I think that's what I'm saying,
Okay.
you know, and on the economic development, I mean, can we lean on her for some of this stuff? Because a lot of the bike infrastructure, you know, especially the jug handle and Yukon Health Center and things like that. I mean, it's been brought up multiple times that that's a big deal. You know, that, you know, people living in the condos by Yukon are still afraid to, you know, bike to Yukon. And I mean, that's as easy of a commute as there is. You know, and, you know, having that bike infrastructure would, I think, encourage, you know, more businesses, more progressive businesses. You know, when we're talking to Trump and EBM Paps, you know, they love having the bike path there. And maybe we could lean on economic development to, you know, get $5,000. And, you know, Rich's point that, you know, we're not town employees. But that being said, how hard is it to, you know, take a couple thousand from somewhere and make somebody, you know, a part-time town employee, so they have the title to do this, and you get the respect from DOT. And you could actually move these things along without having to, tie up a really overburdened engineering department.
Yeah, I don't know about the part-time employee part, but Rose is pretty good at tracking down different grants and has done a number of things to help out us and other areas in the town. So I think we can continue to lean on her and see if we get specific areas. Probably for this discussion, and this is my thinking, why don't we each come back in with our 5 top goals? We can go from the spreadsheet, we can go from the Excel and say, what are our 5 top goals for 2023? And then in January, try and put that list together so we know where we really want to focus. And all these things, then you know what you're looking for grants for. Then you know what you're going to be trying to lean more on Dylan and Russ and Bruce to try and help us with. But let's try and do that for our next meeting. If everyone, Andres, I think you've asked this a number of times before, ranking what it is, but let's just each pick our top 5 and bring them in.
Can we do that now?
Well, I'd give it more time. I'd say give everybody until the next meeting so we can have a chance to kind of look through and everybody can give it some more time for thinking about it.
All right, I'll volunteer mine right now. It's the jug handle. It's a long-term project with DOT. There's a lot to it, getting from basically Farmington Center up to the jug handle to Yukon. That stretch working with DOT, I think, is a huge undertaking.
Yeah.
Especially with DOT moving very slowly, it seems that we get these windows and fits and spurts. And if we miss a window, then we're sitting on our hands for the next 18 months.
Yeah, I think I'm guessing, Andres, that's going to come up on multiple lists. So I think that's going to be one of the top issues we're going to try and focus on. So, maybe we can shoot an email chain back and forth and just kind of bounce some ideas off. So before we're waiting for, the full meeting, we're going to go over what the next meeting is in January. We can have some thoughts on that. And then if we have our ideas out there beforehand, Dylan can help out and give us some idea as to how intense some of these are and the time involved in the town and, get that balance of which ones are doable at the same time.
Sure.
So
I do just have a question for Dylan, just backing up again for a second, what Rich was talking about. So how does it work when something like Route 4? So if West Hartford is coming up one side of Route 4, which does look like it's going to be a bike lane, and I may have read that, what do we have to do, or is that part of the project list, or is that separate? How do we get in touch with the state to say that we would like our section of Route 4 to have?
You should be talking to West Hartford.
Yeah. First of all, we'll have to find out who's actually doing the project being on Route 4. It could be West Hartford or the state, just like how
it
we
could be
do it.
either?
It could be a state project in the state right of way, perhaps. There is that possibility. Maybe they're extending a trail that's already
Maybe we
existing.
can piggyback on it.
Yeah. If it is West Hartford's job, then we can certainly talk to them and see where their start and end point is. If they're ending at the Farmington town line, that makes a big difference, whether they're ending, maybe a quarter mile away from the Farmington town line. So if they bring it all the way to the line, that's much better for us and for our reasoning of adding that jug handle and bike trails to the rest of that upper area by Yukon. Timeline wise, it's still going to be a long time because we're doing things in the state right of way.
Ron, if you want to reach out to Sherry Cantor, she's going to be at the mall outside the California Pizza Kitchen from 9 to 12 on Saturday morning, collecting toys for Tots. So bring your unwrapped new toy and you can talk to Sherry Cantor and find out exactly what she's been doing.
It could be one of those squeaky bike horns.
I should know who that is.
The mayor of West Hartford.
Oh, okay. All right. I've got the Forget it.
That's okay. Okay, so why don't we all work on our list? We'll get our top 5. We'll, send it to the group in an email this week. We can all have some idea of what everybody else is thinking about. So when we hit the next meeting, Dylan will also have a clue as to what's on that list, so he can give us idea of, timing involved in each one of those.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be good to see, Dylan's top 5 too.
Yeah, I'll certainly make a top 5 based off of your top 5s. I'll even list out, large project, small project, and we'll go from there. I think that's a great idea, and I do encourage people to think about, possible policies that we could put in place. Maybe we can do something about what kind of bike racks we accept, Ron.
I think I already went over that, but we can do it
Yeah,
again.
I think you did. We can leave that one alone tonight, Ron.
Yeah,
I think the real key to it is putting together policies where we don't make mistakes we have to fix. If you look at West Hartford, they got a lot of things they got to fix because, man, they've screwed up the roads big time over there. But I think if we look at something where, people can look at it and say, all right, these are the recommendations from the group, and these are a group of people that are working on this particular subject. Where can we make improvements? But also, when we do a new project, what's a smart way to do it rather than having to do it and then having to do it again 10 years later because you messed it up.
Is Sharrow's not a thing anymore?
correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah,
go down that path then.
Yeah, perhaps look up some policies that other towns have put in place, and I would say start from there.
Yep. I think the nice thing about this group here is you all do a lot of riding and in different areas also, not just throughout Connecticut. I mean, you've got some good cross-country trips under your belt. I don't know where Matt's next one is, but you can
I think we're looking at somewhere in Montana to North Dakota. So that's going to be the next one.
Nice. I'm assuming that's going to be a midsummer trip.
Oh yeah, they're not going anywhere near that place anywhere after August.
But it gives everybody a good idea, to Matt's point, of what's not working in certain towns. I mean, West Hartford's gone through a number of issues with their traffic calming plans and their bike lane, whatever, where we've seen some missteps, and it would be nice to have those policies based on what we've actually seen working in different areas. So, okay, why don't we do that? What do we have some updates on some prospective grants, Dylan?
Right now, it's just really the LOTSIP grant that we're going for. The applications have been sent out. The notice of funding has been sent out. We're working on it currently. So that's kind of the big item from the town on our end. Let me bring up Bruce's email that I've been chatting with him on. So Bruce and I were talking about where is it? We're talking about how Connecticut Deep is having a webinar to go over the Connecticut Recreational Trails Program, which he said has about $9 million in it. It's more of a trails grant than like a sidewalk or road crossing or stuff like that. So I'm attending that meeting on January 11th. And the only problem is that it's a 20% match. So I'd have to talk to Russ about it, and we'd have to have a pretty good plan on it before applying and have an idea of what the cost it would be, so that we know what the 20% would be and whether we can do it in this fiscal year for the town or plan ahead. With these grants, you typically have 5 years to use them. So.
Okay. And these you're saying are mostly trails, not roads or anything like that?
It sounds like a mostly trail program, but I will be attending the meeting in January and I'll learn more then.
Great.
Yeah, so we might have an update for our next meeting, but I don't think so. Oh yeah, actually the 11th would be our next meeting.
So if just the pie in the sky idea, I mean, we've got the Greenway. In 2 ways in town. How large is the right of way, and would it be possible to put a mountain bike trail that kind of runs next to it? I know there's some unofficial ones, but
The right of way varies, depending on which road you're on and which section of the road you're on. For instance, with Burlington Road that we've been working extensively on, we have the center line of the road going in and out of the center of the right of way. So
okay. Well, I was
it's
thinking
different on
more
each side.
towards the Farmington Valley Greenway.
So the rails to trails mostly, Andrews?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If this lot zip grant is for trails and we've got the Greenway already, for mountain bikers, it's a lot more fun to go ride on dirt and put, just some single track that basically parallels the Greenway.
Yeah, I think originally, hadn't they done that in some parts in Avon and stuff like that? The theory was there were going to be horses along the side of the Greenway, and they put in those gravel shoulders.
Oh, that's
I
kind
thought the
of,
gravel was for joggers, for the impact, for,
And
I like running on the gravel better, but
yeah, but I mean, that's why they put that on the side. I know that,
I
but that
was
wouldn't be
thinking
much.
even like that Avon stretch, there's maybe separated by, 15, 20 feet, in between the pines, kind of along Avon Old Farms, there's kind of a little bit of a single track stretch. And so I was just thinking if this lot zip grant is for trails money, putting trails in is cheap, and a lot of that could even be done volunteer, if we've got the authority to do it. And so that's where I was wondering is, how large is the right of way on the Greenway? If it's, from the center line 20 feet either way, then we got plenty of room to put something in there. If it's basically 2 feet past, then we don't.
Yeah.
Is it even worth chasing? And that, then that adds a little bit more to the inventory of town bicycle infrastructure.
Yeah, I'm looking at it quick on the GIS map. It looks like it varies quite a bit throughout town. So I guess it really depends on the area
Okay.
of where it is. I'm seeing some really wide portions that are, maybe up to 100 feet,
Okay.
80 to 100 feet, and then some narrower sections.
Yeah.
But that's just at a glance.
Yeah.
Yeah, and with the amount of linear footage of fencing that we have on both sides of the trail, there's a lot of steep hills off to the side too. So even if you
Yeah,
have, it's going to be hard to put a trail in that goes for any continuous length of time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I figured that those sections would bounce you back on the trail until you split off
Yeah.
again.
Yeah. Yeah. Does anyone else have any prospective grant updates? I know the big one was kind of about the jug handle, and Bruce said that we might be able to use this trail grants for that, but we'll learn more at the meeting next month.
Are any of those grants useful for, water fountains, signs, things like that? Porta potties?
Andrews,
They
I
could
think
be.
where we've gotten some of those grants are actually at Rose's recommendation, in a few different spots
Yes.
where she tracked a few down.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. So if you have at all seen the Unionville Pocket Park, we're calling it, on South Main Street, that was all funded through Rose as the economic developer.
and
And,
aside from the bike rack Ron doesn't like, it's very nice.
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah, we should be
Really?
getting the Welcome to Unionville sign shortly in the next couple weeks or so.
Great.
And that will
We'll
have
make
a
like
map
a
on the
big-
back of it.
Are we gonna have like a big to-do and everything? And
I I believe Rose has to do some kind of ribbon cutting for the AARP grant and the Citibank. I think
Because
it's
CJ and I usually get dressed up and show up at those.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'll find out. Rose was talking about that with me last week. I can't remember whether they had a date or not yet, though.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't
I'll ask
heard
Rose
when the
again.
sign was being delivered, but I know it should be coming up soon.
Yeah, and I think that's part of AARP saying there will be
Yep.
a ribbon cutting. So
Yep.
they like to publicize those things, so that's fair. Okay, how about the Farmington Valley Trails Council update?
Well, so we do have something that's I've been wanting to mention, but I just haven't, is, there's a lot of people who are kind of upset about the whole bench situation because, like, who decides how many is too many benches? Who decides, like, is there a number? Like, why? I don't know. Like, why can't more benches be added, especially the new ones that won't need any type of maintenance? There's a lot of room there and people do use benches. They don't understand, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Ron, who's they?
They is the Farmington Valley Trails update here.
The Trails
Trails
Council? The Trails
Mhm.
Council Board, and they're saying we have enough benches, we don't want more?
Farmington saying that.
So the town of Farmington is saying that?
Who did we say that to? Do you know? Who was requesting the benches that we said that to?
Yeah.
Do we want names or should we just talk about it later?
We can talk about it later. Yeah.
I've got
Okay, how about this? Who's made the request for more benches?
the bench person.
Ron Gorowski. Okay.
No, has nothing to do with me. Only because I'm the liaison from the
Okay.
board, that board to here.
Yeah.
So the bench person with the Trails Council has requested that Farmington put in more benches. And Farmington said, we think we have enough.
Yes.
Okay, that's okay. In the nutshell, that's what you're saying roughly. Okay. Devin, I'll talk to you about it tomorrow. We'll find out where it's coming from and what the criteria was. There might be a reason why they said there's enough. I don't know, because I'm not privy to the conversation. So we'll see where that's coming from and what the theory is behind it. Then we can figure out if Ron has to carry his own chair with him everywhere he goes or whether more benches have to go on.
Ron, is that something that's self-funded if the Farmington
Yeah,
Valley
so
Trails
it's
Council,
when-
will they
Right,
put in
so
their own
they're-
benches to a standard?
They're dedicated, people buy them for deceased.
Yes. Okay, so it's not any cash on Farmington's. Farmington doesn't have to do anything. Trails Council takes care of all of it.
So I know that the people who request it pay for the bench. I know that they pay for the installation fee. I don't know exactly how that works through the town, but I don't think there's any cost to the town.
Yeah. I'm
I know the
guessing.
issue. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I'm guessing that we're gonna probably have them placed in concrete, like a concrete pad. So I guess it's really just a matter of materials cost and then the labor of setting up the pad.
I did a bench for one of my neighbors that passed away, and it's right at the Farmington Burlington line. Now I would think it was about $1,500, and if I remember correctly, once you paid that, then it would be maintained in perpetuity, and it included a plaque on the back, that kind of thing. But there are maintenance costs, I would assume, later on if they have to replace parts or something like that.
Yep.
So there was an older style bench, right, Dylan, that is falling apart now. And I believe there's a newer bench that is a different material.
Is it the concrete one with the wood that's falling apart now?
Yeah, probably
Not
anything
super
that's been
familiar.
there
Yeah,
longer than a year or two.
yeah. I mean, there are certainly other bench types that we can go with that are less maintenance than that.
Can I ask you guys a question about trail maintenance? As far as the fences that they put up along the trail in certain areas, I'm just curious why we're using something that actually rots and has to be replaced rather than using something more permanent, or is there a policy or a guideline for that it has to be a more natural kind of fence?
Yeah. I'm not very familiar with the trails program. We haven't worked on any trails while I've been at the town, but I would imagine that the Connecticut DOT or the whoever approved the plans wanted something more natural than a chain link or vinyl fence. As the
Okay, so I
town-
would assume they
yeah,
also factored in a replacement program. Okay, that's all I wanted
yeah.
to know. Thanks.
I know a lot of rungs are missing on the fence. We're waiting on a type of sawmill like that's on a trailer to process lumber so that we can get back into replacing those rungs.
You could ask, Winding Trails got one. You could ask them.
Yep.
Okay, what's next?
So
Yeah.
trails, it was our annual meeting, so we had a guest speaker. Bruce spoke about the state of all the trails and what's going on. So there really isn't anything that I can tell you that would make sense. Bruce knows all.
Ron, you said that like that's unusual.
I know, right? Thanks.
Just
I
kidding.
wonder if I should be here. No.
Just kidding. Okay, how about a road signage?
So,
So that will be in my, oh, go ahead. You have information?
yeah, so road signage, we typically follow the MUTC D guidelines that were placed in 2009. There have been some updates here and there since then, but that's typically where we get our sign guidelines from. That's all I was going to say, Ron. You can take it.
Okay. So then, right, so in my top 5 will be what I'm suggesting, right? That would be where I put it?
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
So you're pushing for lots of share the road signs, right?
no, yeah, right.
Okay. And the Dylan, do you know the update on the signs that are coming in Unionville on the trail?
The Wayfarer,
The Wayfair, there you go.
Wait-
Oh, the
Wayfinding.
wayfinding signs?
Wayfinding, yeah.
Yeah. Geez.
Yeah,
I have a
we
tracking
actually-
sheet. I have a tracking sheet on my desk of when
Okay.
those are coming in. It
Okay.
was an unusually long lead time.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we're waiting on, is for them just to arrive, I believe.
All right.
But the sign that's going up in Unionville, the Welcome to Unionville sign, like I said, should be here by the end of the year, I would think, or maybe the first or second week of January.
Perfect time for a ribbon cutting.
so,
Exactly.
so another little touchy subject. How do we get representative from the state or whatever to come out and look at the crossing at 177 and look at the button placement and see if there is any type of fix to that, to making it in a better place? I think everyone knows what I'm talking about, and an
Yeah,
easy place to access.
you're referring to the buttons behind the poles, right?
Or wait, right, or when you're
Yeah.
coming and it's
Yeah,
way
depending
on
on
the
which
other
way you're
side of the
going.
pole.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
How do we?
Not
'cause it's
entirely
the state,
sure.
Right?
We'd have to get DOT to come out. I think Bruce had somebody he spoke to a few times on that.
Yeah.
So we can just, Dylan, you can talk to Bruce, try and
Yeah,
see
I'll
what it
talk
is.
to Bruce when he gets back. He would certainly know more about that than I would.
Okay.
And I think, so, and a lot of us feel like this, maybe a lot of us here and a lot of us who ride, that a lot of times the people who come out and make these decisions have no idea like what it should feel like how it should be, like the best way to do it from the eyes of a pedestrian or a cyclist. So, that begs to ask, well, why can't somebody be there from this board, or, a cyclist, or, someone who has the vision of the way it should be.
Ron, when we find out who it is that Bruce had communications with, why don't we do that? And you know what? We can call one or two of our state reps to come out there too, so they see we're paying attention, and get one or two of us from this group to meet with them at the same time on site. I mean, that's why we've got state reps, so they can reach out to the DOT and hopefully have a little more pull with them, get them to show up. So
Okay.
we'll take advantage of that.
Sounds good.
Okay. Any other new items we have in here?
Yeah, anything about the name change to add pedestrian to this committee?
So right now it's the Bicycle and Trails Advisory Committee.
It's the
You wanna-
bicycle and trails?
Yeah, it doesn't say that on our agenda, but it's Bicycle and Trails Advisory Committee. I think we changed that about a year ago.
Really?
It doesn't show up on our agendas for some reason.
Oh, I apologize.
Does that cover pedestrians? You'd rather have a Bike Ped Advisory Commission?
I mean, why not go along the lines of what every other town calls it, right? Basically, I think. I've never heard,
I've got no problem calling our group whatever we want to call it. If we want to call it,
well, we could do bike ped trails,
we don't have to make it, the longest acronym you need.
I
mean,
know, I was kidding.
I know. If we just want to call it the, Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee, we could do that too. I mean, that kind of
Okay,
trails is just where we're doing it. So I don't have any problem with that.
right, exactly, because we're not just doing it on the trails, we're doing it,
Right.
right.
Okay, I'm going to invite you to that meeting, and they're going to ask how many times we want to change it in a year.
No, I'll be glad to show up.
Just kidding. I know you would. I've got to figure out which meeting I've got enough time for you.
Okay,
Okay, no, that's an easy one, Ron. That's, there's no paperwork we go through. We just decide if we want to include Bike Ped, then we include Bike Ped. That's not a
all right,
big
just
deal.
let me reach out to you so we get the wording correct, okay? Because,
Okay, then we'll pass it. We'll talk about that in the meeting and make sure everybody else is okay with Ron's choice. All right. Did everybody look at the meeting schedule for next year?
It's the same schedule that we're on now, second Wednesday of every month,
Except August.
except August,
11
correct?
Or 11 meetings of the year. Okay, so everybody's still good with that second Wednesday of the month?
February is my birthday, so as long as you don't mind me having a birthday hat on during the meeting. we're good.
Not at all.
bring cupcakes,
I think we meet in person and we all have a cake.
right?
Sounds good.
Perfect.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna miss the June one. And yeah,
Okay, well, just give us a heads up when it's coming up, and
Yeah.
we'll work accordingly. So,
Yep, and all of our meetings are posted to the town's YouTube channel, so if you do miss one, you can always catch up there. You can wait for the minutes.
okay, everybody get a chance to look at the minutes from the last meeting.
Yes.
Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve minutes.
Do I have a second?
a second.
Any discussion? Other than that one item?
Yes, I'll fix that one item, CJ.
Just in case nobody else noticed, under new business, it's trail update, not trial update. So
Oh,
Dylan did that to see who actually reads the minutes. Now we know the
Yep,
answer.
it was intentional.
Okay, all in favor of approval?
Aye.
Okay, very good. If there is no other business, I could take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you. Second? Okay, 7:52, we are adjourned.